Lockdown has us all a little on our heads. The schedules we used to have and the way we used to do things are now totally different. But that's not always a bad thing. Our guest this week, Rob Fox, the Cambridge Manny, is an advocate for everything child-led. Child-led play, child-led care, child-centered.
Within a home environment, you can dictate the routine to your own pace. And actually, it's good for me as an educator that I'm able to dictate and go, actually, you know what? Let's not do too much today. I had the example of this the other day. Boy 3.5 didn't want to get dressed till 10 o'clock. And we have those days at the weekend where we don't want to get dressed at 10 o'clock. And it just made me think, the realisation in the moment, it's okay. It's okay. And why do we, as nannies, caregivers, au pairs, whoever's listening to this, why do we almost let our ego step in the way? We interfere too much. And actually, I found myself wanting to interfere in that situation and go, come on, it's time to get dressed. And actually, I thought, no, I'm going to take a back seat here. I'm going to let him play for a little bit. He's not doing anything wrong. We got the freedom of the day. He can get dressed whenever he wants to get dressed.
It sounds nice, right? But what is the core of child-centered care?
And actually, we guide learning to that child. We meet that child where they're at, not where they're going to be in the future. And we're there as skilled educators and carers to really give our own experiences and our own knowledge, but also to listen to the parents' changing needs and where they're coming from, the way they were brought up. What is the influence behind why they've got a strong opinion on the way they raise their children? I slow my practice to be in tune to children, and actually I promote children's rights. I give children a voice and believe in their competencies and capabilities. And I guess that's all through play. The freedom to play and encourage their imagination. The curiosity, awe and wonder that comes with childhood is so magical. Often we don't give them enough credit to their theories, their perspectives are a lot stronger than some predetermined outcome that we as adults often have have inside.
A lot of nannies and parents struggle with this idea of care, child-centered care, but it has a lot of benefits.
The other day, boy 3.5 said to me, he said, Rob, I want to make some bird feeders. And it was snowing. It was the first snow we've had in years. And he said, I want to do it now. I said, go on, get your Wellington boots on, get your overall trousers on, get your jacket on. We're going outside. There's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing. And I guess with children, it enables them to be constructors of their own learning. Once you recognise the freedom of play and actually their own perspectives. He was using descriptive vocabulary to describe what he was doing. So he was able to have this conversation, two-way dialogue with me about making this bird feeder out of an orange. And we used yogurt, and he was stirring the yogurt, and we were talking maths concepts. How much? Is it too much? Is it too many? How much do you think this may weigh? And we were weighing the ingredients as well. We put some bicarbonate soda in. We were just experimenting and actually giving him the chance to experiment, giving him ownership of that experience. And actually, going back on that point, I do a lot with my kids, with my nanny charges. As you see on my page, it's very much what they want to do at that time. It's led by them.
According to Rob, and many others, there is a tremendous benefit to child-centered learning, activities, and play. You use these self-led moments to create the perfect environment for child-led learning opportunities, integrating learning into real-life events that the child themselves have already shown interest in. Children often find a bigger sense of confidence and accomplishment in things that they're learning if they themselves take the lead in learning those things. They recognize that their ability to succeed has nothing to do with their innate abilities, but the effort that they put forth. And when children are initiating their own learning at their own pace in a way that it feels safe for them to do so, they're more likely to succeed in leaps and bounds. Child-led learning means that you look for opportunities to teach the kids in the environment that they themselves are interested in learning. Now, despite this sounding easy, it may actually be really hard. We often hear these stories of child-led learning, play, activities, and child-centered care. However, like Rob and like many of us, it's hard to begin implementing these because we're not used to it.
It's a process. It's a process of learning, a process of evolving. And once you really recognize children's authentic gifts as learners, but also as artists, they can create their own curriculum. But it's important as nannies, we need to recognize the process that goes with that.
It's not always easy, and it definitely doesn't always go according to plan.
Let's just say it was a Friday afternoon. In a tough tray, in the middle of the kitchen, there was corn flour from one side of the room to the other side of the room. And Dad wasn't meant to be back until 7 o'clock in the evening. I was meant to have bathed them and put them in their pyjamas before bed. He came in at around 4 o'clock. This was week 2 of me being there. I'm thinking, P45, hand... I'm going to be out the door. And he just looked at me and smiled. And I went, I'm just putting them in the bath.
Child-centered care, or child-led learning, means making the most of their day, rolling with the punches and going with the flow. Really, we're following their lead, so it's definitely, most of the time, completely unplanned.
Wyatt, 4 o'clock after his nap, is he hyperactive? And actually, you're trying to do a quiet activity with him. You're trying to do a puzzle, or you're trying to do something. I've made the mistakes. I've gone at 4 o'clock. Let's do a quiet time now and actually do that. What he needs is an hour in the park to run off some energy before coming back for tea at 5 o'clock. It's things like that. Once you recognise what they need in the moment, I was telling you, Rainey, before I came on, I made the mistake of doing a messy activity on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. The time and the space, and they were hyperactive, and I found myself going, why is this not working? Why is this not working? And then I took a step back and looked at the time. I was like, 4 o'clock on a Friday. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? And actually, we've slowly got there to realise that actually on a Friday afternoon, we need to be doing jigsaw puzzles. We need to be having story times. We need to be playing board games, and actually have that kind of chill and downtime before parents arrive.
Now the question is, as the nanny, as we support the family as a whole, how do we make these systems work with parents, especially when they're super busy?
It's key to have an open and effective conversation. I work for 2 doctors, very busy people. I see them in the morning for probably 2 minutes. And, that's the way it goes. And, we debrief at the end of the week when we've got some time, and they don't work. They work half day on a Friday. So we have a sit down with a coffee on a Friday and go through the week and see how things are. So really kind of tailoring yourself to their needs.
After a long day, I get it. You're tired. Trust me, I'm tired too. But it's super important that as the nanny, we take the time to communicate with the parents that we work with. Communicating regularly with the parents in a relaxed setting, not necessarily at the end of every day, but definitely at the end of every week, hopefully, minimum, You can alleviate stress and tension. That way there's not added anxiety with you or the parents that gets then projected later onto the kids.
As an anxiety sufferer myself, I find it actually better to talk things out in both personal and professional life, because it creates more of a burden on your chest to kind of come up with scenarios that, you start to overthink. What do they think?
That may look different for you than it does for me. Whatever works for you and the family is what's best. So whether that's a WhatsApp group message, communicating on a whiteboard in the house, or using the daily blog that I use that I put on the fridge, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you regularly communicate with the parents. Beyond recognizing the autonomy of children, recognizing that children are individuals and need to be child-led and need to be put in the center of their own learning, we as nannies also have to recognize that we are all different, which means that we're all going to nanny differently. We have to play to our strengths and work on our own weaknesses.
My additional challenges that I've got, which I talk quite openly about, if anything, I use it as my strength to kind of go, I am neurodiverse, but I'm attuned to children's changing needs because I've experienced struggle and fight to actually stick up for myself within industry. And even in the classroom as a young child, I was bullied through high school, bullied through the whole schooling. So at the grand age of 29, I'm finally finding my calling that I actually can speak out against being a little bit quirky. But I guess that's what makes me a good educator, because, I can be attuned to those children's changing needs. And to be honest with you have to be a little bit bonkers to work with children anyway.
While my interview with Rob covered a lot of amazing points, there's one note that I would love to end on, and that is, don't belittle yourself or your work as a nanny. The work that we do really makes a difference in the world. Sometimes it's easy for us to slip into the I'm just a nanny attitude, and sometimes it takes someone else to snap us out of it.
I always say just working in daycare. I chose this as a career, so I should be a little bit more passionate about what I do. But we always say I'm just an early years worker, or I'm just a nanny. No, we are educating the minds of the future. We're moulders and enablers of curricula. What I'm getting used to saying to people is, I am a nanny. I'm a male nanny. And they're like, are you a teacher? I say, yes, I am a teacher. Are you a carer? And I'm like, yes, I do both jobs. And actually, there is no difference in education and care. And care and education meet together as one. I became a nanny full-time in September. I got approached by a family and they said, would you come and work for us? And I said, I'm not, this is going to sound awful, and I don't mean it to sound awful. I've got 2 degrees. I'm like a consultant. I'm advising. Last thing I want to do is kind of lower my standard of what I'm doing. And then they went, we believe in you as a professional. Will you come and work for us? And we'll pay you a decent salary, a livable salary. And I went, when do I start?
And before you leave, comment below any experiences that you've had with child-centered learning. And I'll see you back here again next Saturday. Bye, guys. Oh, remember to like and subscribe.